Just a
Hello.
little bit of enthusiasm. That's all we need.
We are live. We are
Bloody hell, Mara, you
late.
started
We've
that too
got
soon. We're
no
just
idea
psyching
what the
ourselves up.
hell we're talking about. So hello, welcome to GTFO, and today we are talking about newsjacking. It's a change to the, what do they always say in television, and a change to the scheduled timetable or something.
Something like that.
Because we were going to do digital nomads this week and next week, but our two digital nomad guests are busy being off around the world, traveling, being digital nomads, and are not able to join us. So we've bumped
Everyone that
newsjacking
was
off the
watching us have
calendar.
just clicked off.
Okay, well, no, that's not how this works. Yeah, everybody. All right, Dali. Jesus Christ! Right, go on, Dali.
What?
Introduce yourself.
What's wrong? Should we start again? Start again, Mara. Go on.
No, we can't.
Who you feel?
Hello, I'm Hannah and I'm from Grow Traffic. This is Dali and he's from Grow Traffic. And
Yes,
today we're
I
talking
am.
about newsjacking. We've got top 5 tips for you. So without any further ado, because this is descending into fucking chaos, tip number 1. Rachel,
No, well, who are you both?
Mara,
Dali,
who are you?
Right, I'm Rachel from Grow Traffic. Dali, who are you?
Hannah's introduced me. She said, I'm Dali from Go Traffic.
Oh my God, I'm going to mute you if you don't start behaving yourself.
What do you mean?
So, Rachel,
Hannah, who are you?
We've just done that. Rachel, what is newsjacking?
Right. Newsjacking is where you take a piece of content or something that is already in the news. So say, for example, it's been on the radio that morning. It's been announced on BBC News. It's on the Guardian website or something. And it's an article that everybody is talking about. And basically, marketers take that and they use it to their own advantage. So if you're a social media marketer, for example, you might take a news story and create a new piece of content about it, but it's with the twist that it's advertising your product or service. For the purposes of SEO, we do it slightly differently, and we are no doubt going to go on and talk about that in a minute.
Don't do it, Dali.
So thank you. So Dali, what is the benefit of newsjacking? Why would we want to do it?
Well, as we're going to cover in point 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, I won't tell you everything that we're going to talk about now. Why do we do it? It gets more relevant traffic to your website, builds your authority, lets you interact in public debate, all that type of stuff.
Okay, brilliant. So 5 top tips for getting newsjacking onto your radar and incorporating it into your growth, into your content management strategy. Number 1, get up early. Keep up to date, set up some alerts. Rachel, what do we mean by this?
Okay, so the first thing you need to do is put your Google Alerts onto your phone, onto your browser, whatever you want to do. Google Alerts it's a handy little tool, and you say, these are the things that I am interested in, and I want you to tell me if there are any news articles released about that thing. You should really be doing it anyway for your industry sector, because it helps you to formulate your content calendar and stay on top and be on trends and all the rest of it. But this is just sort of slightly going that extra step further. So what you're going to do is set your Google Alerts to say, I'm interested in these subjects. And as soon as those articles are released, you'll get your little ping. Now, the key is that you've got to be on top of that ping. So don't read your article in the morning and then come sort of 12 o'clock, you start thinking, oh, I should probably do something about that. You need to be quick and you need to be on it. And the reason is...
You're doing a Dali. Right.
Okay.
So, for example, if we were going to engage in newsjacking, which we do, we would be scouring the internet over our morning coffee for things like SEO news, algorithm updates, Google News.
Yeah, but also it's looking for things like hashtags on Twitter. It's not necessarily just news. It is also if something is suddenly trending on Twitter or there's suddenly something happening that everybody's talking about, you need to be on it a bit. And I think one of the key things here is it's really hard, especially if you're a business with multiple people in it, or you're in quite a busy sector. It's really hard for just one person to do that and be responsible for that. So I think the key is have a few people paying attention to the discussion. Have somebody who's on Twitter and somebody else on Facebook and somebody else on LinkedIn, for example, so that you can, as a team, stay abreast of those conversations and those trends that are happening on all those different platforms.
Brilliant. So as Rachel was about to start getting into, Dali, point number 2 is be quick. Don't rest on your laurels.
Dali, did we talk about getting up early? I don't think we did talk about getting up early.
Okay.
'Cause
Can we kick him out?
just
That's
really
great.
quickly, because getting
Go
up
on.
early, I've found is a really sound tactic or sound strategy when you're trying to implement a newsjacking campaign, and that's because often the press releases are embargoed till like 6 o'clock in the morning. And they go out on the news wires at 6 o'clock in the morning, something like that, 5 o'clock, whatever it is. And then the journalists pick them up for those days' newspapers. But if you can get them at the same time as the journalists, or be up before the journalists and have that content rewritten and published in some capacity on your website, you're much more likely to get a lot of the traffic for it.
And why does it matter then that you're expedient with it?
Because there's a volume of other people are gonna pick up on it during that day. If you're the first one, you have more opportunity of getting the bulk of that traffic, or the people that are engaging with that topic.
Hell, it's like we planned this, isn't it? I can't believe how well this is falling into place. Okay, brilliant. Anything to add on that, Rachel?
I do just quickly, I'm going to backpedal a little bit, and we did touch on this at the beginning, but I just want to clarify that there are different types of newsjacking, and particularly like as I said, if you're a social media marketer, it might be that you're going to create a graphic and it might be a bit funny and a bit tongue-in-cheek, blah, blah. What Dali's talking about there is taking, for example, an industry announcement or something that's relevant to your sector and writing a blog post or an article about it on your website and using that to drive traffic. So, it's the same principle. It's taking an item of news and repurposing it for yourself, but there are different ways of doing it. And the difference there is, absolutely, if you want to be one of the first people to announce something and you want to be getting all of that lovely traffic, yeah, you've got to be first. If you want to jump on a debate and you want to create some funny tongue-in-cheek graphics, which we've put some examples on our Facebook page this morning that you can have a look at of good campaigns that have done this, you are going to have to, in that case, just wait a little bit, because you're going to have to see what that debate develops into and how the trends develop and how the hashtags develop and all the rest of it. So depending on how you're using it will depend how quickly you want to jump on it and what aspect you're going to do for it.
Yeah, sorry, I was using that as an example, really, but you're right. It's about tapping into the current trend in a current event, isn't it? That's generally what it is. And when I talked about traditional the kind of basic newsjacking, which is finding somebody else's news pieces and repurposing them, what you're hoping is that enough other newspapers, enough other magazines, the radio, whatever, will start using that and creating a conversation, but you're in the midst of it.
Whereas it's almost that aspect of it is almost like your traditional PR, isn't it? It's being the first one to start having that conversation and leading and being that industry thought leader. And yeah, obviously that's kind of key as with authorship and all the rest of it now for SEO.
And there is a big crossover between newsjacking for SEO and digital marketing and newsjacking for PR. And I think, would we consider, or would it be fair to say that it doesn't always have to be news? It can be telly, current events. And the Tiger King during the pandemic was an absolute gold mine for memeable content and people being able to leverage that content that's trending to market their own business.
Yeah, that's a great example, actually, of if you think about all those businesses that then started putting T-shirts out with Tiger King faces on them. That's a kind of example, and people going out and creating content that commented on it. But it's important to put your brand spin on it as well. That's a kind of crucial part of newsjacking.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. So, top tips for newsjacking. Number 1, set up alerts and keep abreast of your industry. Number 2, I've lost my piece of paper. Number 2, be quick, get up with the lark. Time is of the essence. You don't want to be like the last one to the table. Number 3, contribute. Actually say something that contributes to the debate. Be quotable. What do we mean by this, Dali?
So newsjacking gives you the opportunity to position yourself as an authority, to influence industry debate and to influence public policy. There's lots of different things that you can do with newsjacking, but you always want to put something in there as well that can be picked up by another person, so maybe somebody else doing a bit of newsjacking, maybe a journalist or somebody else, somebody that can pick up your kind of comment and weave that into the wider narrative of that event that's taking place. So you're getting kind of potentially an exponential reach.
Yeah, I think as well, in terms of kind of the Google algorithms, the key is always to add something. You don't just want to parrot what other people said. Adding something and contributing to the discussion and putting your own spin on it, whether that is a meme that you're creating, a social media post, or right up to a white paper or long form content. And you are trying to position yourself as a voice of authority. So putting out something that's contributing to the discussion helps to do that.
It's really important to, sorry, just one thing, Rachel. It's really important to understand that newsjacking as a tactic is based on that's one of the fundamental pillars. It's not just about creating a meme about something that's happening. It's creating a meme that in some way influences the person that's reading that or viewing it, influences their perception of your business in relation to that topic that's happening.
Rara, what were you going to say?
Pretty much the same thing, actually. I was going to say that is the definition of newsjacking, because if you're on, newsjacking is taking an existing story or trend or whatever, putting something to it, adding to that debate and creating a new piece of content. Otherwise, if you're just sharing everybody else's memes or you're just rewriting somebody else's blog post, that's just sharing existing content. That's not newsjacking. So a fundamental point is you've got to put your spin on it, whether that be funny or you're adding your point of view, or you could even disagree with it. It's perfectly valid. Say if there's, a survey that's come out that some big company like Deloitte's done a big survey about the workplace, it's perfectly legitimate to take that and say, actually, this is not what we've found in our workplace. We've got a completely different situation. So you need to be contributing and creating something new, or you're just repurposing and resharing content.
When I always think it's interesting when you look at the way that SEOs will do newsjacking versus the way that PRs do newsjacking, you often find that SEOs agree with everything and PRs disagree with everything. So and that's the thing about influencing the kind of industry debate and policy debate as well, that it's often about, from a PR perspective, say, it's often about influencing and maybe trying to stop something happening because you disagree with the conclusions that somebody's come up with off the back of the research.
But also, I mean, just if we come back to the point of algorithms love debate. They love engagement, and more engagement you've got, the more commentary you've got, the more that feeds the algorithm, the more engagement you will see because you'll be put in front of more people, whether that be on a search engine, a social media search engine, or a normal Google or Bing search engine or whatever. So actually, it is, probably quite, what's the word? Prudent? No, intelligent, clever. A good word for that.
Beneficial.
Beneficial. That wasn't what I was thinking of, but that'll do. But to have the slightly contradictory view, because then people will come on and they will say, well, actually, I disagree with you. I mean, it's the reason that the Facebook posts that where everybody's arguing are the ones that keep coming up in your feed time and time again, because they're getting more and more engagement. So perhaps being a little bit contradictory or a little bit controversial, but looking at it from a cynical point of view, is that way to get that engagement up and really get a bit of traction with that content.
And that's not to say that you have to, come down hard on one side. You as a company, you can just generate debate. You can say, the other perspective is, of course, this and this. What does anybody think? You don't have to be saying, I disagree with this entirely, because it can be difficult to straddle that line between making a statement as a business. A lot of time you don't want to alienate your audience. Dally, you look super critical. I thought you were going to.
No, I was just going to ask. I've got something that I wanted to say, but I was just going to ask: is there going to be a question about distribution at some point?
Yes, it's in fact the next point, Dally.
Oh, what's it?
You even wrote these points. Jesus Christ!
I can't remember what I've said. 20 minutes ago.
Just final point on that before we do move on. But yeah, I think some of the cleverest social media posts, particularly that you see on this, are just where a company will drop a meme or a headline or an article or something and just put thoughts. They don't need to express an opinion. They don't need to come down on one side or the other. They just put it there and say, there you go, debate about it.
I would argue that that's not newsjacking.
Well, no, but you know what I mean. If you've created...
No, but in terms of generating debate for the algorithm, you must listen and pay attention.
I am listening. I'm listening. It's interesting that I feel like we kind of straying over into something that might not be quite newsjacking, but go on.
Okay, let's move on.
Christ almighty, Dolly. Right, number 4.
If you insist.
Circulate. Have you got
Circulate,
your pedant badge on?
Dally.
I've not got my pedant badge on. I don't.
Where is
I've got pedant badges. I should wear it when I'm wearing this. Especially because I'm going to say something else now. Hannah, it's distribution. Come on, it's not circulate. Now, Rachel, tell us about circulation.
No, go on, tell us.
Tell us what? Which bit?
Oh my God.
Right. Okay. So. Distribution is what is obviously one of the most important things you can do with newsjacking, because if you want to be influencing the industry debate, you want to be getting out there first. Often you have to start to get some traffic back to your website in order to generate some of those user signals that kind of points out to Google that you're working. I've found in the past that a really good way to go about this is to share on Reddit. You've got to be careful about Reddit because you're only supposed to share, I think it's 1 piece in 10 that's your own content. So you have to be careful about how you do it.
They're really strict on Reddit as well. Like, Reddit is one of those social media platforms that we rarely talk about, and it's because that they have these sort of strict rules about what you can and can't post, and you've got to have been there for a certain time, and you've got to have so many followers and all the rest of it. And how do people utilize Reddit if they want to use that as a way of sharing their content?
I've been really successful with Reddit actually over the years.
What a surprise!
Well, I've been doing this for a while.
Not getting away from newsjacking, Mr. Pedant.
No. I've been really successful with newsjacking on Reddit over the years. And the key thing is to remember to share content from other people's websites, so you're just dripping yours in every now and then, and you have to, and you've got to kind of do it as though you're posting from somebody else that's found that bit of content. I mean, it's just sharing a link, and the other thing is, I think, like we said a bit earlier, whilst you can, it's often better to put something a bit provocative in the title in order to generate those clicks back, clickbait.
Okay, carry on then. Reddit is a good place to distribute. Anywhere else?
Yeah, I mean, you've got all the social media platforms.
Where else would you circulate things?
Well, I wouldn't circulate anything, because we all know that circulation refers to magazines and newspapers and their and the distribution list, and nothing to do with actual distribution of content.
Go on. Carry on. Where else? Where else?
I would put it out on all the social media platforms. If you've got industry-specific forums, you might want to share it there. Think about the Facebook pages that are really specific to your industry. LinkedIn, all those industry-specific LinkedIn pages. Your page on LinkedIn, your business page on LinkedIn. I'd also think about. I've got there's various kind of places that I go to share things that are just kind of what they call bookmark kind of exchanges, where you just go and put your things on there, and it kind of drips bits of traffic through as well.
Is the key to being successfully distributing your newsjacking content on social media that essentially you have to have that following there already? Like, you couldn't just write a few newsjacking articles and drop them into your social profiles if you haven't already got that following, because they're not going to get picked up. So in a way, if newsjacking is going to become one of your pillars, you by default have to work at building up your social media profiles and those followings before you even think about newsjacking.
Not necessarily. It depends on So LinkedIn's a good. Reddit is a good example. So I used to work at for a construction. What did they do? Like construction tools and parts and all that type of stuff. Did marketing for them. And so there was lots of construction projects happening all around the country, and there's constant announcements about this building getting planning permission, or this is going to be developed here and there. And what you could do with that is drop it into the subreddit London, and you'd be talking to the people in London about this new development that's going to happen. You get loads of feedback because people always feedback on planning decisions, don't they? And that's a way of going about it. So you tap into the pre-existing audiences. And that's kind of when you're pushing it out there. But then also the important thing for getting up early and getting this stuff out early is that you're going to trigger Google's algorithms, or that topic will trigger Google's algorithms, which means for those search queries, it will adjust the SERP, and you should feature higher for a period of time while it's still topically relevant.
Well, let's move on to that. Go on, Mara. What were you going to say?
No, I was going to say let's move on.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
And then number 5, top tips for newsjacking. Tip number 5 is optimize and trigger the QDF algorithm.
Oh, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah, so Dali, what is the QDF algorithm?
QDF stands for Query Deserves Freshness, and it's an algorithm from Google that is especially relevant to news content, topical content, and essentially when a ground mass of people start talking about something that might be on social media, it might be searches that are happening in Google, or it might be the opposite way around, that news content is being pushed out there by lots of people, then Google will adjust the SERPs for those queries related to that topic in order to get more relevant, in order to get newer pieces of content higher in the SERPs. And that's why if you get up early, you're likely to be able to get in the mix when Google does that update.
Another great way of ensuring that your content is triggering or is getting featured thanks to the QDF algorithm is to make sure that you've got fresh content going on your website regularly. Rara?
Yes. Well, yes. I mean, you've got to keep adding fresh content to your website. You've got to be regularly adding content to your website so that the Google bots are going back and crawling it, and your website's being indexed, and you're gathering all of that authority, domain authority, and authorship, and all the rest of it. But I think as well, it is really, we have sort of said it, but I think when we're talking about newsjacking, it's not just enough to write one blog post, put it on your website and push it out. You absolutely have to keep nurturing that. And the first time you try and do newsjacking, you are going to be screaming a little bit into the void, and it might not go anywhere. And you might think, well, that was a waste of time. I've got up at 6 o'clock for completely pointless reasons. But it's about being consistent with it and keeping going, and get up, write that article, or create your meme, or whatever it is you're going to do. Put it out there and keep going back, put it on social media, then keep going back to it throughout the day, keep prompting it, keep putting it on, and then keep going. I mean, we were in a cycle, weren't we, with Grow Traffic, where we were doing one about once a week. We were doing a newsjacking piece. And that got us into that rhythm of getting noticed, of being recognized for writing about things like that. So that consistency is key.
Yeah, and also to be not just consistent in actually producing the content, but being consistent in the message that you're putting out there, the angle that you go at, so that you strategically have an objective with your newsjacking. You're trying to attract a relevant audience in some way, but you're also trying to influence that audience to make them understand that you're an authority, and maybe what's happening in the industry. And it's worth just pointing out as well that newsjacking is a relatively short-term approach to marketing. because the types of kind of content marketing that we tend to do is evergreen content, which means that it will be relevant now and in years to come. 5 years time, that one piece of content that we've written now will still be getting traffic, will still be relevant, whereas a newsjack piece, which is probably taking you just the same amount of time to research and write as a well-written evergreen piece of content, will only be relevant for days or a few weeks, and maybe in a year's time it might get the odd click when people are looking back at events that happened a year ago, but
it's very short-lived, isn't it?
tail,
but I do think as well, we've got this move now towards, it's not, SEO and getting your website to rank in the past was mostly reliant upon what you were doing on your website and what you were producing, and nowadays it is much more about being that authorship. And I think we have done a GTFO about this in the past, or there's certainly one coming up if we haven't. But being that voice of authority in multiple places on the website. So yes, it's on your website and you're creating that content that is commenting on your sector and your industry and the changes to it. But you're also doing that and having that same conversation and as Ali said, becoming that voice of authority on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Reddit, on in your Facebook, wherever it might be, on other industry websites. See if you can get guest blog posts. See if you can become one of the people that when your industry is writing about something, you're the one that they ring up for a comment about it. That's how you become known. That's how you get that, authorship and authority, and you are the trusted author. And newsjacking is absolutely fundamental piece of that puzzle now.
Yeah, definitely.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys.
There we go.
Recap then. So number 1, top 5 ways to boost your newsjacking. Number 1, set up alerts, keep abreast of your sector. Number 2, be quick off the draw, get up early, don't laze around, not writing your article, get it out there, get it circulated. Number 3, say something that actually contributes to the noise or pose an opposing view. Don't just copy what everybody else is saying. Number 3, circulate / distribute your content around the internet. And number 4, optimize your content for QDF.
Did you just say 3 twice then?
No.
So that's it. Thanks very much for joining us, guys. If you're listening to us on where you get your podcasts, like us or follow us or leave a review or whatever, you know what to do. Or like and subscribe if you're on YouTube.
Go on, Rara, do it, Rara.
Subscribe below, guys.
Sorry about the beginning of it.
Sorry about the middle of it. Sorry about the end as well. The end is horrendous.
Yeah,
none of it's very good.
How did I thought you were really good, man? I thought I was particularly good.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.